Hi there, welcome to this CPD module, and in this CP module what we've done is we've attached a video. This one is of Best teaching the access points, and I know a lot of you have learned the access points and you might feel like I know this, but when we refine, CPD is all about refining and getting better and hearing the stuff that you may not have heard at your training. We now teach it in a way that, you know, you've got that, you connect deeply into the meninges, which are underneath the bone. You hold in there, we have a sticky fingers where you connect in there. Access points is something that, you know, I looked at, it took me 6-7 years to refine. Always looking at my hands, always making a better contact, making sure that every time I contact an access point, there was more flow in the system. So with this module, it's not just about listening, hearing, but it's also about doing. What can you do differently at home? What are you committed to? What are you looking at so you can be a better practitioner? The reason I want you to be a better practitioner is so you can help more people. So enjoy the video that we've got attached, but again, it's not just about enjoying it. Really practice that, refine your skills so together we can help more people.
Now that's what's really fun is we get to move into ease and we get to move into the access points, and it's the part where we can really help our people, you know, heal. And the way we help our people heal is by really helping them connect into that area of ease, which is the access point, and really helping them connect into that innate wisdom and that innate intelligence. And that's really what we're doing here when we're making our contacts with the access point. We're really looking to make contact directly on the nervous system so we can really make very powerful change within the body. So that's what we're going to look at now. So I'm going to start with giving you guys just a couple of landmarks. So we've got access points on the cranium, we've got them on the sacrum, and we've also got them on the cranium. But we always want to be starting on the sacrum. We always want to start our sessions on the sacrum. The sacral access points are really, really powerful, and they're what we're going to use to really fuel that flow up the spine. And so our focus is here. We want to start here, we want to grow and really expand these. Now we've got our landmarks for where the access points are going to be. So it's really great if you guys get really familiar where the dimples in the bum are, because we use them for so much. We're going to use them for bolsters, we're going to use them for doing the foundation gateway assessment, we're going to use them to find the top of the triangle. So get really, really familiar with them. And while we're here, there's nothing wrong with when we come down to look for them. If we look for them and we can just draw a bit of a visual line. Each time during the session, we don't want to keep coming back and drawing that line on the person because it just gets a bit weird. But we can see, and even if we've done a line, you can often see the mark on people's pants. We can see where they are. Just get to know where they are that first time so we know. Then when we're going to, all the access points are then going to be here in this triangle and come right down to the coccyx. Now, some people get a bit nervous and anxious to come all the way down to the coccyx. But a lot of people have the most incredible access points down here at the coccyx and just where the coccyx joins to the sacrum. And there's a pretty good reason for it. When we're contacting dura all through here, we do have bone in the way, but when we come down to this point down here, we've actually got access there where it doesn't have the bone in the way. So it's very good to try to get down here. But saying that, we're not always going to be able to get there. So scanning is really good. And when we're scanning, having some points of reference of how far to scan can sometimes help people feel a little bit more comfortable in knowing how far to go down. So what I like to use is the dimples here and where the hip joint here. And I was saying that to a few people before. Our hip is in here, it's not up here. So we're looking at the hip joint here. Another place to get really familiar and knowing where that is, because again, when we do bolsters, we'll be using that as a landmark. But not everybody again, but most people have their coccyx will end there where their hip bone is. So it's still, knowing these landmarks doesn't ever take away the importance of scanning, because scanning for the very best access point is going to help us not only choose the best, but we're going to feel where the coccyx ends. And why I say not just using these as landmarks and then just going hell forever, we're feeling wherever, It's because every single coccyx and every single sacrum feels different. So that's why it's still really important to go feel, but just use these as landmarks to know that we're in between here. What was I going to say to that? So yeah, I just wanted you not to be scared to go to scanning all the way down, because what sometimes we see is people will start and they'll come here and they'll stop, but there could be like gold just like an inch below, and they've just been a bit too scared to scan all the way down. So when we're scanning, we want to scan all the way down, and the pretty good rule is, like I said, you've got this as a bit of a guide. That should keep you a bit out of no man's land if you use that as a guide, but feeling is so important, because some people may have had their coccyx may be bent under, so we're not going to be able to access that. And we're not going to go digging for it, going, oh, there's a great one there, I'm going to go dig anyway. We're not doing any of that stuff. So if we can't feel it, it's just that's where the end of our scan comes. Some coccyx can be broken off, some can be bent around, and they're all different shapes and sizes, and the body's wonderful and everything's different. So it's just so important that we don't skip the scanning, even though we've got those sort of guidelines. Access points, even though within the triangle here from the dimples down to the coccyx, there's you know, plenty of access points through here, but we really want to stick to the midline, because this is where we're just going to find the best access points. So always just sticking to the midline. It's not worth really trying to find anything out here, and sometimes depending on people's different bum cheeks do different things, and you can be out here and you may find an access point. It's probably not going to be the best one anyway, and you may not get a great contact because you've got bum cheek happening there as well. So it's best just stick to the midline and scanning. And when we're scanning, we want to be like in a way that we can feel. We don't want to be really hard in you know, making that contact, because as soon as we get hard, we've just squashed our own receptors. We're not going to feel anything. So remember, keeping a firm enough hand that you can feel the access points, that we're not just floating off the air, but that we can actually still, we're light enough that we're able to actually feel. And when we do that, we want to do that with this nice feeling part of our hand, never with pointy stuff. But I'm going to go more into the steps after. I just really wanted to give you guys the landmarks and the best places for looking at the access, or looking for the access points. So the other ones we've got then are going to be up on the sphenoid. So this is going to be the second best. As I said before, where we're working here in the sacrum, these are going to be really powerful, like change makers in the body. This is really going to help grow someone's flow, and that's what we want to do. With our access points, we're being really purposeful in what we're doing. Is we're really wanting to grow that flow within their body, because we know when we're growing that flow, we're growing their energy, their life force, we're giving them more access to them, we're clearing the blockages that are held within the spine. So this is where that really powerfully is going to happen, and we want to use that to fuel it. If we can't, so we always come here first. This is always going to be our number one preference. If we can't find something really great here, we're going to come up to the sphenoid as the second place that we go to. Now the sphenoid, you're going to find that is just, I like to start scanning just in front of the ear. So if we go just a little bit take these off, just a little bit in front of the ear, and then scan upwards, because where you're going to find the best access point for the sphenoid is a little bit in front of the ear and a little bit above the ear. Now what we want to remember also, access points are not here on the face. The access points are all within the hairline. So we don't want to be coming right around here to the front, but I like to start the scan just with a little bit at the front of the ear, and then when I scan up, I'm coming to just a little bit above the ear, and it just helps me still scan and to find that best access point, because even though it's a small area where we're looking for this access point, we still want to be scanning for it, because we want the body to be showing us what's the very best. And that's the really, not only for feeling where the coccyx ends and everything, we really are getting the body to show us which access point is the best, because we're really trusting the body knows way more than we do. So that's why it's still important, it's always important to scan, but it's still really important to scan for the cranial access points. And I'll do a demonstration of those. But before I do a demonstration with a person, I want to go through the contact, and I want to also cover the 7 steps. And these 7 steps were created to really, it's on page 45. Sorry guys, I didn't tell you where we're up to, but we're on page 45. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Just be mindful when turning your books. Super huge apology. The printer has put terrible binders on there. They're not ideal. They're not what we usually have, but we realised when we unboxed them yesterday and there's nothing we can do about it. So your manuals may fall apart. I know some people's already have. I can't replace everyone's manual right now. So can everyone just be really careful when turning and all those sort of things so they don't fall apart. Massive apology for that one. As soon as I open the box, I'm like, oh, these ones are crap. Okay, so back to access points and on page 45. The 7 steps we've got here is the first one is to find it. And so that's what I was talking about with the scanning for the access point. When we're going to find the access point, we're going to start here where the dimples of the bum are. And that's where we're going to put our hand at the top of that. The reason I don't want you going above that is because if we start our scan here, you're going to come across some access points that are here and go, oh, there they feel good, I've got a great access point. And you're not going to come all the way down here because you're going to feel the difference here and that's great. But really, if you'd gone all the way down, you're going to find something, most often we'll find something better. So we've got your little line here and you've drawn that on that person or you've marked that as, yep, that's where their dimples of their bum are. Put your hand here and then scan. And especially on the first scan, don't just scan more than once. Scan more than once. Don't just scan once. Because what we want to be doing is scanning all the way down so we're getting a feel. And then we're going to scan again. And you're going to find that if we scan a couple of times after that, your hand is going to continue to stop in the same place. Because your hand is going to have that area of rapport where it really wants to stay and where it keeps being drawn to go. And that's most often not, it's going to be the access point. So trust what you're feeling in your body when your body is continuing to stop in that one place. Now, once we've done that and we've scanned all the way through, come back through the second scan, where does my hand keep stopping? Where does my hand keep stopping? The next thing is you want to do is choose. Now, you're quite often, you're going to go, oh, there's one here, oh, there's one down here. You just need to choose which one was the best one. Because we said before, we're wanting to really grow that ease inside the body and the access points being areas of ease, we want to work with wherever is, you know, the most rich, like where there's the most to be working with. So choose which access point is the best access point for you to work with in that session and the one where you've got the most rapport. So the third step is then the connection. Now this is beautiful because what happens here, if you come into this access point, just give yourself a moment to really connect and deeply just sink into that access point. Where you just, and it's not a forced sinking in, it's just like, oh, you know, where we just connect that little bit deeper. Now, so we just then sink into that access point, and once we're sunk into that access point and we're there really connected with the access point, we can apply a little bit of torque. Now, when we apply torque, we don't want to be doing this. It's not a straight over, we haven't got guns, we're not shooting, we're wanting this, it's very, very subtle. Oh, so I missed a point, sorry, connect, stick. Sorry, I missed a point, I got ahead of myself. So if you want to scan, once you've scanned, you've connected with the access point, you've sunk really deep into that access point. I want you to get really sticky fingers here, like no one can come and pull you off from here. You're so connected, there's no one can come and pull you. I wouldn't be able to walk around during this session and flick your hand off. Because if I can come and flick your hand off, you're not connected. We want to get really connected and deep into that access point. But there's another thing with sticking with the access point and getting this sticky thing, is when you then apply that small amount of torque, and see what I'm showing here, it's super subtle. It's just super subtle. And what I'm doing is I'm still making contact with this paddy part of my finger because I want it to be a really soft, comfortable contact. I'm still with this paddy part, but I'm just stuck and then I'm twisting a little bit where it's on the side. But I'm not right here on the side, so I'm not pointy, I'm not any of that. I'm still connected with a paddy part of my finger and just slightly twist it in. When we do that torque, what happens is it gives us the opportunity to go in a little bit deeper to the access point. So then we're able to come in, and it's only very, very slightly. It's just here and then in that little bit deeper, but only if the body allows it to happen. So when we're doing this and when we're making the contact with the access point, we're doing it, one, it's really connected, but we're also really matching the tone. And matching the tone is really important because it's not about pressure, it's not about harder, it's not about softer, it's about pressure. It's about matching tone, so getting that tone. So if you put your hands up and practice now matching the tone even with yourself, because this is what we want to do with our people. We want the people to not feel us pushing in on them. We don't want them to feel us just hanging off here nowhere. We want them to be able to find the access point and make contact in a way that they don't really feel us, but they can really deeply feel them. So what we do with this is when we're putting our hands together, well, I want you to then, if you were to push your hands together really tight, can you not really feel anything? Can you feel anything there? Like your feeling is turned off. If I push too hard on this side, I can feel this hand pushing here, or vice versa, I can feel this hand pushing here. And we don't want that. We don't want to be pushing in on them. We don't want to be too light of contact. We want them to be able to just connect in with their nervous system. So what we want to do is to match that contact where you can't feel where, like with your hands now, you can't feel one side or the other. That's what we're wanting to do. We're wanting to do get the contact. My words are a bit funny today, sorry. I'm tripping over them a bit. We want to get the contact to the point where they can't feel us, but they can really feel them. Our contact should feel that where we don't feel the difference between them, where they end and we begin. And we're wanting to do that in this really beautiful way so then they can find it, they can play with it. So just practicing matching tone, that's why it's never a harder or a softer. And if we come in, and then when I'm speaking about going deeper, we're still going in deeper, matching that tone. But because we've taken a moment to really connect, we're coming into in a really connected way, so it's not going to be any sort of a jolt. Because what we want to remember is when we're working with the access points, we're really wanting to get in contact with their nervous system. We're wanting to contact that. So also the matching the tone is matching the tone with the dura mater. So it's also, you need to be really focused and intentional in what we're doing, you know, that we're actually, and also holding the sacredness of what we're doing, because when we're contacting these access points, it's not a joke, like it's somebody's deep innate intelligence. It's like the most sacred part of them. So we really need to treat it with that type of reverence when we're coming to the body, when we're on the access points, that this is something that's really deeply special. So, and we want to do that in a really connected place, not just going, oh, there it is, let's go. So that's why we want to be really connected and quite purposeful in what we're doing. Now, remembering that what I was saying is when we're contacting it, and we're contacting the dura, which can sometimes be underneath the bone, and sometimes down here we've got better access. So the contact's going to feel different for every person. Everybody's going to feel different. That's why it's not a this hard, this soft, all those sort of things, because we're making the contact with that. We're also wanting to be mindful that it is contact with the dura. We're not matching tone with the clothes, the skin, the fascia, the muscle, any of that. We're wanting to get that contact with the dura. So, and you'll know when you're on the right contact, because you're going to see the flow grow in somebody's body. So that's what we want to be looking at. And that's the next step after we've deepened the contact, is to really then watch. So watch what change that your contact has made in the person. Before we scan, we can take a moment and go, where is the flow in their body already? What can they do without me? And we want to just mark that in our mind, not physically on them. We want to mark it and just go, you know, what can they do without me? So that when we make that contact, we know we've got the right access point and a beautiful contact, because the flow in their spine grows. So if it's not, just get your hands off and have a moment. Like just if it's not, if you feel like maybe you don't on the best access point, maybe there's a connection issue. And that's what's really important with the whole connection thing and the matching tone and all that sort of stuff. It's not the person's job on the table to do that. That's our job as practitioners, to make sure we're matching the tone, we're finding the right one for them to work with. So I think that's covered all those little points that I wanted to cover with the tone, where they are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to demo it on a body. So Barb, can I get you to come up? And then I can also talk more about the cranial ones. It's a bit hard to show cranial on this. So as I said before, always coming to the sacrum first. I'm going to come down, and there's my access points, and then we're going to come in for the scan. Now, something I want to add, I wanted to say, I will come back every single time. Every time I have come off an access point, I will still always come back and scan. I will never come back and assume, because every single time I make a contact on the body, I'm expecting it to change. I'm not expecting to come back to the same body. Yes, very well much it may be the best access point, but that could have changed since my last contact. So I'm never ever going to assume, because often what we'll find, even if we can't find a great one first time round here, I may go up and work on the sphenoid next, and I'll come back, and then I'm going to have a beautiful access point down here. So I've just had a quick scan there, and there's not actually a great one here, but we're doing a demo. So I've got one I can work with, but it's actually not a great one here. So I would probably start here to help grow that. But for the purpose of the demo, we're going to do this. So I found where the top of my triangle is. I'm bringing my hand down. I'm going to scanning for where I can find the best place where my hand keeps building rapport. And then next I'm going to take a moment and connect. And so for me, that means that I'm just going to really drop into that access point. And I'm just going to connect with it, so that when I apply some torque, and when I maybe go deeper into the access point, if the body allows it, it's coming from a really connected place, so it's not going to be it's not going to feel any disjointed, or it's not going to feel like a shock to her in any way. So then I'm just applying a small amount of torque. So it's like super small. Did you see it's only slight? It's nothing huge, it's just small. If you can't see at the back, just come around and just don't get in front of the cameras. But yeah, move around, come to the side, come here to the floor if you need to. Don't stay in your seats if you can't see. So like I said, I've connected and I've just sunk in that little bit deeper into the access point. I'm going to apply a small amount of torque. I'm just moving my fingers out of the way so you guys can see. And then I can come in a little bit deeper. So that's the contact with an access point on the sacrum. You can see the flows growing in her body, and like I said, it's actually not a great access point at all. But we've got flow that's growing in the body. So like I said, scanning. I just tucked my fingers out of the way. I don't work that way. I've just done that so my fingers aren't blocking the demo. I will rest this hand on top, so I will come down, find, connect, drop in, and I'll tuck these out of the way. Small amount of torque, and then I'm coming in deeper. So see, my contact is still on a paddy part of my finger. It's not all the way over, so the torque isn't that much, but it gives me the ability just to sometimes go in that little bit deeper. I'm just resting this. I work better with this finger. There's not a rule about which finger you've got to find, but it's ideal one of these two. I work best with this one, so I just rest the other on the way, because that's what we also want to do, is we want to be really, really isolated with our contact. So we don't want to have our hands everywhere, because what we're wanting the body to do is to really work with that access point that is the very best one. And so we want it to bring all its focus, all its attention into here, so that it's able to work best with that. When we come up here to the cranium, we've got these ones up here. Now, these are always, like I said, we always start down here, unless we just can't find something great to work with, come up to the sphenoid next. And because what will happen is, once we've worked with this often, we're going to find one that's opened up nicely down there for us. So if we just come here to the side and the sphenoid. So like I said, the sphenoid's a little bit in front of the ear and a little bit above it. I like to start just there in front of the ear. So when I'm scanning up and I'm finding then the best access point, and then I make my contact with it. Now, the contact that we make here with the sphenoid is very, very different to the contact we make on the sacrum. We want to have a flat hand. So we're wanting to have our fingers flat like this with 3, not just 1, because it gets pointy, it's hard up here. So it's pointy. We don't want to do that. So just 2 or 3, whatever it is, get the other ones out of the way, because we don't want to be spread, because again we want to be really isolated with the contact so that the body can bring its focus just to that area. So really flat contact here, because this is not nice. It doesn't even look nice. This like claw-like thing just doesn't look nice. So if we just bring it up and then we make the contact here, and it just feels really beautiful, like you just want to stay here and hang out. So that's the sphenoid. Now we do have other ones, which is the temporal, and we've also got these ones here on the occiput. I can show you the occiput ones, but what I want you to bring your focus and attention to is the sacrum and to the sphenoid. What you'll find is this, like I said earlier, the sacrum's really very powerful to bring that flow up. We've got all that energy, all that life force and everything is stored down here in our foundation gateway. We've got so much abundant energy there to use to send up through the spine. So we start down here, we really want to bring that flow up. When we come up here and we use these the sphenoid access points, it really expands the flow that we've already built from using the sacrum. So think of these feel beautiful and very connected for the person even on the table, but think of these as a way to really expand the flow within somebody's body. So the next ones we've got, so always these are 2 preferences, because these are just going to create the most amount of change. Like there's some really interesting things with even, yeah, there's heaps of interesting things linked to it that I've been doing a bit of research lately. So it's just, these are great to use. Powerful, use them. They're the best 2, always use them. We can, if you can't find something great there, you can't find something great here, you can go to the occiput, but if you are practicing today and you can't find anything great here and you can't find anything great here, please just put your hand up, because I'm not yet to meet a body that hasn't got something excellent here and here. So we'll do that, but I'll show you the occiput anyway. So we were talking earlier, I said to many of you about the mastoid process, using it to find the C1. So we can do the same here. Oh, I've forgotten the name of it, the word's left me. That, you know, that little lumpy thing here. We've got that lumpy thing. I don't know the real word, doesn't matter. But we've got the mastoid process here at the side, and we've got that lumpy thing. In between there, along that ridge, you're going to find just some access points along there. So still just the very same thing, coming through and scanning to find them. And when I feel that place where there's some rapport, then I can just go in here as well and create the same contact. Now I find when I'm doing the sphenoid, even though there's not the same type of 6 steps, because we're talking about a bonier part of the body, there's definitely processes I do within myself where I scan, make contact, but there's an intention, there's a change. Even the intensity within my hand changes. My pressure's not changing, my pressure's not getting any harder, but there's an intensity in my contact that I'm on. Like I am making contact with this person's nervous system, and I can feel the connection between those access points. So even though there's not like the steps as such with here, there's still definitely a turning on or an intention changes as soon as I found that contact, that I'm here and I'm connected. What else? Now other things can be around timing, like how long are we going to be on an access point, and that's as long as you are connected. So as long as you feel that connection with that access point, then you can stay with the access point. When we get later on in the week and we learn to work with more than one person, then that's different. It's different. But when we're working one-on-one, we're going to focus on that connection, and it's that kiss. And you probably have heard Carly speak about it before in the videos. It's that kiss. It's about being there until it's not. So as long as you can feel, you don't want to be the person who hangs out there too long. As soon as you feel that connection as finished with that access point, you then just come off. Now you then may want to go to doing a little bit of an expanding when we get to that stuff, or you then may come up to the sphenoid. You can do that, but then always come back down to the sacrum and scanning again, looking for the very best access point to make a contact with.